What are the most common reasons an out-of-network therapist could be audited? Okay. So an audit, let's just define our terms here. We're talking about a records request. Now, it could be a records request for various reasons. Some are kind of administrative, like to back up billing, or need for, could be more clinical, like does this person really need treatment? If you were to be out of network and see that person 5 times a week, let's say, for many months, and then they submit a bill on your behalf, the insurance plan might reach out and say, hey, we don't know, tell us why 5 times a week is really necessary with this case. We're not sure we want to pay for that much treatment, or that was necessary, or whatever. So, you can't just do whatever you want as an out-of-network therapist and then submit to the insurance plan and think they might not contact you and want to know more before they pay. Common triggers are routinely billing more than 1 session weekly, a higher use of longer session codes like 90837 and 99354, which, if you read my article on billing for longer sessions, these are like sessions longer than 80 or 90 minutes. So if they're seeing those regularly, they might say, okay, we want to check in with this person, and maybe even see their notes to back up the need for a longer session. Now, many of us don't think of 90837, which is the 60-minute individual billing code, seems like a longer session, but certain plans do, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Higher than average number of sessions, often for the diagnosis. And remember that plans can ask for your notes before they pay a claim. They may stop a claim and say, we want to see the notes, or even after paying claims. I've seen situations where they've come back a year, 18 months after paying claims for a whole year, and they've said, we want to have the notes for that last year of treatment. So they sometimes go through and do these routine audits and say, we want to see the notes. And for in-network, at least, they have sometimes said, we want that whole note, that the notes weren't good enough. We want, our money back. So the kind of audits that are going on out there for certain plans are pretty scary. Medicare and United Healthcare and Optum, these are United Behavioral Health, United Healthcare, and Optum, that's all kind of one company, are the ones most frequently auditing right now as I'm recording this, that I'm hearing the most about, at least. So if any of your clients are submitting to, so that's another thing, when your client says, I want a super bill, I would ask them, who are you submitting it to? Because that may affect how you keep your notes a little bit better. And I'm going to tell you another reason why you need to know that. So I have a whole webinar on audits and records requests and what every therapist should know. It's going to do a much deeper dive onto how to avoid them, how to deal with them if you have an audit request, all that you might want to know about auditing. And again, the link is at our little landing page there. So let's talk a little bit about this 90837 issue. With United Behavioral Health and Optum, I want to talk about it because it is the biggest company in the country. And so many of your people are going to be submitting your super bill to them. This insurance plan really feels that the 90837 should not be used routinely. Most of the country, some parts of the country, they're okay with it, but it depends. They feel in general, it shouldn't be used like a routine. And they say that there are some exceptions like EMDR, specialized trauma treatments, systematic desensitization, really complex cases, maybe DBT. So if there's a need in their minds for a longer session, then they will often approve that. But they feel like for routine sessions, you should be able to get it done in 45 minutes. So they are more often auditing people who are doing 90837 from that particular plan. So frankly, when I have an out-of-network person who is submitting to United Behavioral Health or United Healthcare or Optum, I sometimes down code to a 90834 for a shorter session than I provided, just to not trigger an audit for my client. So like, as I said, I encourage the use of 90837, though with most other plans. Don't stop using 90837 on all your super bills or even on your, if you're part of insurance plans. But with that one plan and with Medicare, it does increase your likelihood of getting treatment reviews or claims reviews if you use it regularly. I just want you to be aware. So once again, I want to say this because people sometimes misunderstand me. I'm not saying to stop using the 90837. I use it routinely with all my health plans that I bill, except for this one plan, United, Optum. I don't bill Medicare, but if you did, that might be something to think about. So just know what plan the client's giving your super bill to. Let me say just a few things more about that 90837 thing. Because your client does rely on your documentation to get reimbursed, you're going to need, and this is true not just for 90837, you need to document the therapy start and stop times of your sessions, particularly if you're doing longer sessions, but across the board, this is a requirement. The therapy start and stop times, it's not the scheduled start and stop time. So if I were to look at your documentation, first of all, each progress note should have the start and stop times. And it should be the therapy portion. So it should be 11:00. The example I give there is 2:03 to 2:58 instead of, it shouldn't say every week 2 to 2:55, 2 to 2:55, because that was the scheduled time. Okay. So each week should be 2:03 to 2:58. The next week it might be 2:01 to 2:56, whatever it was. And make sure that those number of minutes fits with the code that the CPT code that you build for that session. Now, this time cannot include waiting, documenting, or even scheduling the next session. It's not enough to just write down the session duration, because sometimes your documentation is going to be used to back up your billing and they need to have a start and stop times. So use the 90837 for sessions 53 minutes and above. Times should vary, as I said. I can't use it for ongoing couples and family therapy, I said. And it's a good idea to document the clinical need for those longer sessions, 90837, or how extra time was used. So you might say, especially with those, you might want to say something like, there was a need for 90837 medically necessary due to client's trauma history, and extra time needed to consolidate emotions in session or to process emotions in session. Just something, a little phrase like that about why you felt, or because we did EMDR, or because whatever reason you feel that it's a good idea to do longer sessions with clients.